Do you remember what day it was? Like, it was a few days ago that the Sony held its big press conference. It was on the 22nd, was it not? Or the 20th? 20th.
Yeah, 20th.
It was the 20th. That's when I saw the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had this big press conference, this big to-do about the PS4, which we never actually saw. So we saw the controller, which confirmed almost all of the things that the prototype had on it. There was the prototype picture that they released that we talked about.
Yeah.
Which is technically out of date because we didn't get it up before that. Because it was the day after we did that. But anyway.
I don't need to know.
But yeah, so we saw the controller, we saw a bunch of games, and we got the specs for the PS4, but they never actually showed the console, so there's that. But so I think we're basically just going to talk about the games, because we kind of already... Everything that we talked about the prototype controller still pretty much rings true, because it's almost exactly the same controller. But, so, we can talk about the games. The first one that they released was Killzone Shadowfall. So, I've never played any of the Killzone games. And you know what? It's funny because talking about that, Danny could actually come in useful for this because I think he played some of them.
But Danny's not here.
Danny.
No, because he's letting everyone down.
God, I feel so let down.
But yeah, it did. And it was funny, the one thing that I noticed that everyone else is complaining about, it was like, oh, I wish I could see how good this game looked if the stream wasn't so laggy and in 240p, because that's the only resolution I can have to keep up with it.
Oh.
Because there were so many people watching it. But, from the screenshots and little snippets of actual video of decently rendered footage, it did look pretty good, and it did look, some high quality, so there's that. What did you think of Did you see any of the Killzone stuff, Will?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I heard the name.
I'm just trying to follow people doing like live blogs of it instead. And
that's what I was doing as well.
I bet you were, Mark. But the next one they talked about was Drive Club, and I thought that was an interesting concept for a game. Although it seemed like I was like, well, I have played a game where I drive around and then get out of the car, and that's called Grand Theft Auto. But I also shoot people. There's that. So,
exactly.
But and we have our resident driving game expert here, Mark. So what did you think of the the bit of the trailer that you saw for Drive Club?
Well, from what I saw, I couldn't really see how the cars were handling and stuff, because that's, for me, the biggest point of the driving game, to have good driving that feels
good.
But like, realistic-ish to whatever extent.
So you're not too big on the super realistic, we put in the exact number of thread counts on this Maserati that's in the seat.
Right? Not necessarily. Like, I don't know. I like a car game, driving simulator, to simulate driving to, a relatively realistic extent. Not necessarily perfect, but not like arcadey, not Need for Speed, or what's another one that's not
Burnout? Were you a fan of Burnout?
You know what? I've played a couple of those games. Like there was one where you just like had to crash into stuff, right?
I think that was Burnout 3. That's pretty much
that was brilliant. I enjoyed that immensely. And then because it was just so, it wasn't trying to be.
It was the video game written by Michael Bay, just explosions.
Yeah. That was perfect. And then I played the demo for one on the PS3.
Burnout Paradise, I think that was.
That was the one. I liked it for a demo because it was big.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing about that game, was that it was an open world game.
Right.
So, but
and I enjoyed it. It wasn't trying to be something it wasn't, and it wasn't. But it was what it wasn't. No, it wasn't. But I don't know if you do anymore. But but oh crap!
I think the the big thing about Drive Club was it was kind of reinforcing the whole aspect of Sony's presentation was that they were trying to bring gamers together and have more of a social aspect of it, like where you could play other parts of the game and share certain things. So
Right.
I think that was the mantra that Drive Club's kind of following. But I think the biggest thing, and Mark, you can weigh in on this, was that at this first initial release thing for PlayStation 4, they have Drive Club instead of the PlayStation staple of Gran Turismo.
Right. Which is sort of interesting.
How is Gran Turismo 6 doing, Mark?
Actually, I've just heard a rumor.
Ooh.
I have the Google News page for Gran Turismo 5 bookmarked. And I do, actually. I'm looking at it right now. And the one headline here is Sony executive casually mentions Gran Turismo 6 for PS3.
PS3?
PS3, really?
PS3. Which is a bit surprising.
Wow.
That's very surprising.
Didn't see that coming.
No. So, but it could just be completely off.
Like 3.
Yeah.
Like the one we have now.
Usually, there's 2 Gran Turismo games per console. One at the beginning of the cycle, one at the end. But 5 was sort of in the middle.
They had high hopes, but...
Yeah, Prologue was out quick, but
That's
full
interesting.
not completely.
So do
By
you
any
think
means.
that the Drive Club would be something you would play? Like if you could get out of your car and socialize and do this other stuff, and it was more about playing with other people than just racing sort of deal?
There's a fine line there for me. I'm not a huge fan of customizing your car to make it look pretty. I'm a fan of driving my car in a driving game. But it depends, really. I'd need to look into it more.
What if
Like,
you could get
like a demo or play for 5 minutes just to see what it's actually...
What if you could get like a bunch of Suzuki Cappuccinos and just ram them into other people's cars?
I've done that, actually. It's called Gran Turismo 5 Online. Play. If you go to the wrong room. The online isn't the most intuitive for Gran Turismo 5, for sure. You either get super hardcore people, or you get...
You. Well, not...
No, not me. People that just drag race back and forth and run into each other.
You get the purists and the
Yeah, the ones who
clowns.
yell or scream at you if you touch their paint at all.
But I'm kind of wondering how that if you're like getting out of your car is going to be a big thing, because it seems weird like to have something where if it's more driving focused, then what would be the purpose of getting out of your car other than to switch cars, which you could
Right.
do in a menu?
Yeah, exactly. So that's a big question. I guess you could show off your car if you,
You just you get out of your car and walk up to the front fender and lean leisurely against it and have casual conversation with someone else.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that reminds me of this brilliant. It was on the way to Washington D.C. We were just in a rest station, and there was a guy parked next to us in a DeLorean, and he was just leaning. He had the gull-wing doors open. Obviously, it's a DeLorean; you have to do that.
Yeah.
And he was just leaning casually against that car, and those cars are notoriously unreliable. So we were pretty sure that his car it had just broken down, and he was just sitting there being like, "Yep, I have a DeLorean," and just sitting there, just waiting for the tow truck.
He just sits there and starts talking about how cool it is, and he's like, "Oh, a tow truck's here. I'm gonna have to take it home now."
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the only reason, really, I can see to get out of your car.
Maybe
Uh,
they'll put some gambling.
What?
Maybe they'll add in some like gambling so you can get more money to buy more cars.
That's true.
Probably
Yeah,
set up the car to
yeah.
get the dealership too.
Be like, yeah, who's going to win this race? Oh, yeah, Frank here is going to win this race. I'll bet, 50 credits.
Yeah.
And then you lose those credits, and then the
50
secret
drive
police come
bucks.
in
But so yeah, I think
and
that
kill everyone. That's a different game. That's a different game completely.
the verdict of Drive Club would be we'd have to see some more in order to get the full gist of what the game's about, right?
I feel like that's going to be the verdict for every game on the PS4 right now, though.
Well, that one, they went into a lot of detail explaining certain things more so than other ones, right? So I think that's kind of weird that the game that was explained the most still has the most mystery about it.
I just still don't know what they're really where the focus is going to lie completely. Whether race is going to be a huge integral part, or if it's the coming together of people to be happy.
Yeah. But the next one was Infamous Second Son, and that was also talking about not Infamous, because it's not actually related to Cole. So that's the one I was most excited for. It looked really good. And,
I really enjoyed the first Infamous game.
Did you play the second one too?
I got the demo. Well, I got the demo for the first one. I played that quite a bit, and then I got the full game. And that was like one of the first full games, other than Gran Turismo, that I'd ever gotten, and I really enjoyed it. The second one, I didn't enjoy as much. Did not.
I think that, well, other than the obvious gaping plot hole that the second one brought in, it just, I don't know, it was, the gameplay was more like, it was more of a game, but the story kind of took a back seat compared to the first one, right?
I definitely thought that.
So
there was just something that wasn't there.
And it didn't feel like it was a dire situation. You're still running around the city doing stuff, right? Like, but I think that's where Second Son's going to come into play. It's going to focus much more on the scene, like the setting of where it is, and the backstory of like being in an oppressive government sort of deal, and so I think that's going to be pretty interesting. And considering the fact that they had so many new powers in, like even Infamous 2, there was, well, it started out with just Cole had the electric power, but now we have somebody with ice and fire, and yeah,
and then you added
big bugs.
Lots of those things.
But yeah, so I think that there's a lot of room to play around with that, and it can be pretty good. So I'm looking forward to it.
I am as well, actually.
Did you,
Mark?
Did you ever play Infamous, Will, or no?
No, I've never played it. Might sometime. I'll add it to the list.
There was also Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs looked pretty good. But there was
heard of that.
There was talk of Watch Dogs before, and there was a period of time when I always confused Watch Dogs with Sleeping Dogs, because they both had dogs. And apparently both games aren't about dogs, but they both contain the word dogs, so found that confusing. But I think it's one of those games where it's like topical. The controversy in it is going to be like you can totally relate it back to real life and have like this problems with like technological advancement and certain things and such like that, because that's basically what the game's about. It's about using technology to get stuff done, kill people and find things. So.
I've heard a lot about that game. It seems like lots of people are talking about that game. From what very little research into games I've done, I've heard that name quite a bit.
Okay. And Mark, I'm going to have an experiment here. There was another game that was, it was, I heard the name of it, and then I saw the gameplay, and, well, I'll just say the name of the game. The game was called The Witness, okay?
Okay.
So what do you expect from a game called The Witness? Build your fictional realm in this game, and all you have is the title of The Witness. That's it. Well, what would you think?
The Witness?
Yeah. What kind of
I'm
game
guessing
would it be first?
Crime game.
Okay. So it would be like a third-person or first-person action sort of deal, right?
Yes, where you're either the title, the witness, you witness something, and you're now like running away from the evil people that don't want you to spill what you saw, or else you are the evil people trying to keep that person from spilling what they saw. You know, lots of killing.
Now, yeah, see, that is almost to a T of what I thought of when I heard The Witness. Do you know what the game's about, Mark?
What is it about?
It is a colorful first-person puzzle platformer.
What?
All Little Big Planet sort of deal. All
Really?
cutesy, yes.
Is there anything?
No,
That-
I have no idea why it's even called The Witness, and even if they did explain it, it's probably still terrible. Why it's called
Yeah,
But
that doesn't make any sense. Like, with a name like The Witness, you have to do something like...
yeah,
Really, it could even be like a game where you just sit in a courtroom, just listening to testimony.
jury duty, the game.
What was that? It was, I can't remember what it was called, but there was a game that was, Harvey Birdman. That was what the game was. And
Really?
He was like a superhero, yeah. I think it was a TV show.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, but
This
there's
was also a game.
because that was what it was about. He was like an attorney, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But he was also a superhero. The 80s. Anyway.
Dark times.
But yeah, that's what I thought. I thought like The Witness. So I was like, okay, I'm prepared to see something a la like the Watch Dogs trailer or the infamous Second Son trailer, and then I get this. I was like, is this the same gameplay? Are they playing the right viz? Right?
They load the wrong video. What?
But yeah, it just threw me for a loop. So I don't even know what to expect from that game. Like if it's first of all, games like that don't really appeal to me anymore because I'm not 8. So, but who knows? Could be a good game. But its name is misleading, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Little-
I don't like that. That makes me angry.
I think
Attack.
that was pretty much the big ones.
Destiny.
Oh yes, that's right, Destiny. And we can talk about that, how I basically said that they were, and a lot of people were saying this too, I saw on Twitter, but the way they described it, they were saying a first-person shooter set in the future with like mass multiplayer online capabilities, and it's like, the way they were describing it sounded exactly like PlanetSide 2. And I was like, I'm playing that game right now. It's the game already exists, so I don't see what's so innovative about it, right? But so either they did a really bad job of describing it,
I think that's probably the case.
because and I haven't heard anything other than it's made by Bungie and it's supposed to be a lot of people were writing it off as Halo for PS3 sort of deal, or Halo for multi-system. So, but
I don't know. I feel like it's one of those games where we're going to need to hear a bit more about it before we can reach any real conclusions.
I think it's going to be a game that's like, it's going to have a lot of people that play it, and the people that play it are diehard fans, but it's not going to
It's not going to branch out.
like permeate the zeitgeist of the gaming community,
Yeah.
be it Call of Duty or Halo even. But I guess it's good for Bungie to branch out, right?
Yeah, it's definitely good. They're putting their resources to use for something. And yeah.
So, but if you haven't already, you should play PlanetSide 2 because it's awesome.
I'm working on that.
But I'm trying to see if there was oh yeah, there was they showed Knack, which actually looked kind of interesting. And it was like me trying to explain it is not going to do it any justice because it's so confusing. But it was basically like, it was like this cartoony game where you could like assemble matter and make your character like bigger or smaller depending on what situation you need to do. And it was like a puzzle platformer sort of deal, and that was like had really sweet graphics, it looked like. So I think it
Sounds
was
pretty interesting.
yeah, it was, and the character of it looked really cool because it seemed like some of the cutscenes where it was like showing the backstory of this Knack character, and it was like this scientific innovation of how like you can manipulate matter and things like that. But then the game's set in like, it seems like a classic fantasy setup, so it was like really contrasting views there. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah. Sounds interesting. I'll take a look at that.
But yeah. Oh yeah, and there was the one random one that they came out with. They said Diablo 3 is coming up for PS3 or PS4. This is just like, why? Why?
I don't know. I've played it on the computer, and it handles okay, but I don't see how it's going to work on a console.
Wait, the game's already out?
Yeah, Diablo 3's been out since June.
Well, what? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, I don't understand.
But yeah, there were people, of course, shopping. It was like photoshopping, saying like, this is the first day of the PS4 Diablo 3 launch, and it was like Error 37 that came up.
Servers are
But
offline.
and there's one that I didn't really get to see because at that point my internet was particularly bad, so it cut out for like the whole trailer. But there was Deep Down was another game, and that's a working title, so I have no idea what that's about. But
Sure, more information will surface soon enough.
yeah, that is a game. It exists. And they released a picture of all the developers that were working on it, so there was basically all the usual parties. There wasn't really anybody that was left out, other than maybe THQ, but that's another reason. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for PlayStation. Oh, they're saying the PS4 will not block used games.
Which is good.
Good.
And they were basically talking about, like, all the games that come out on PS4 will be fully compatible with remote play on the Vita. So, which is what they tried to do with the PSP, but since the PSP came after the console, it kind of didn't work. It didn't have the technological power to do that, and it didn't have a second joystick.
And they're trying to fix.
But yeah.
We're probably going to touch on the PlayStation 4 again in a later Nerdcast.
Well, we'll talk more about the specs when they
When
actually
the console.
show the console, yeah. Right now, it's just a cardboard box with parts in it.
Sad but true.
Lots of good things come in cardboard boxes.
Like shoes.
Pizza.
Not shoes. Video games.
Those aren't
No.
cardboard.
Game
Those are plastic.
consoles. Game consoles come in cardboard boxes.
Well, yeah, the PS4.
Yeah.
Wait, so you're saying that, like, inside the cardboard box is a cardboard box? That's redundant.
That's interesting.
That's stupid.
Sony needs to get on that.
Yeah, definitely.
The PS4 is also not natively backwards compatible, so it can't play PS3 games.
Again, what's the reasoning behind that?
Because they want them on the cloud.
I don't want the cloud.
Yeah. So basically the theory would be that, well, I have no problem with this, and I know what's going to happen, as soon as I go to, like, I can't upload my game to the cloud. That's going to be the biggest problem. I don't know if I can, or if there's anything about that, or if that's announced, but they have to have something that says, like, I can look at the proof of purchase code of the back of my game, type that in, and then I get the game downloadable for free. Because I don't want to pay for the game twice.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the biggest issue, I think, with this. Like, I have no problem with playing it from a cloud, as long as I don't have to pay for a game I already own.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
So, I think that's the biggest thing. And I don't know. I don't even know why they did away with that. Like, because when the company says, like, oh, well, it's all about the games kind of thing, and then they don't let you play the games that I own.
Right.
I'm getting mixed signals.
Well, for PS3, they said that not a lot of people used any sort of backwards compatibility for PS2 games. Not a whole bunch. There wasn't a lot of demand for that, was there?
How would they have any way of telling that unless they did like surveys? But then the only people who are going to answer that surveys are people who are saying, why do they even have this backwards compatibility? I don't use it, blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
That's true. How much would you pay in addition to the console for backwards compatibility?
Well, when the console came out that was backwards compatible, it was $700. So
That's true.
And
So are you willing to pay an additional $400 or whatever?
that's another thing. They haven't said anything about price range yet for this.
Mm.
There are a lot of people saying that it's probably going to be around $500 at the high end, and there are also people saying that it should be $300 at the high end, but that's probably not going to happen.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Maybe.
I paid full price for a PS3 opening day.
I was pretty
I was
close.
ready for Gran Turismo 5. I was ready for Gran Turismo 5.
My
It didn't come out for a while.
my original one died. I have Fallen Soldier.
So did mine.
I got the yellow light
light.
of death. Yep.
Yep. Now I have a Slim.
Yep. Same here.
Much cheaper.
It fits a lot better on my desk. That's for sure.
Yeah, it definitely fits better, and it was less money, but you can see where the money went from.
Yeah.
And now there's a new-ish version, isn't there? That's even worse looking.
I know there's a new one, but I don't remember what it looks like. I didn't pay that much attention.
Neither did I. I just remember being angry.
Just for no reason. Why do we need a new console?
Exactly.